Intermittent fasting is extremely popular because it looks simple and it can produce fast weight loss. But most people do it wrong, and they end up losing weight but not fat. They lose water, they lose muscle, and some of them do not lose anything at all because they overeat inside the eating window. For some people, it turns into a binge rebound cycle. They restrict and then compensate, then they restrict again, and instead of a cleaner routine, they build a new problem. That is why I will tell you how to fast correctly so you get the benefits without paying for them with muscle loss, hormonal stress, and weight regain. Intermittent fasting is simply two windows. One is the fasting window, when you do not eat for a set period like 14 to 16 hours. The second is the feeding window, when you eat like 8 to 10 hours. The most common method is 16-8, but 14-10 is often more sustainable. There are also more extreme forms like the 5-2 pattern, where you have 2 very low-calorie days per week, and alternate day fasting where you fast every other day. Those can work, but they are harder to adhere to, and the dropout risk is higher. Why does intermittent fasting work when it works? In real life, the main mechanism is not magic timing. It is that a smaller eating window often reduces total intake and creates a calorie deficit. That is why fat is burned. The other advantage is behavioral. Fewer meals, fewer decisions, less snack momentum, and for some people, that simplicity is easier than counting all day. If you do it correctly, losing around 1 to 3 kilograms per month can happen depending on your deficit and starting weight. But fasting is not superior to a classic calorie-controlled diet. It is often just simpler for the right person. It may also improve insulin sensitivity and lower triglycerides and blood pressure in some people, mainly as a consequence of fat loss and improved diet structure. People also talk about autophagy, but in humans, the standard intermittent fasting patterns do not have a clearly proven, clinically meaningful autophagy effect. It is much more uncertain than social media makes it sound. Now, the real problem, what goes wrong? First, the longer you fast, the more hunger pressure rises and ghrelin increases, so many people compensate by overeating. If the first meal is hyperpalatable, the compensation gets worse. Some people even start overeating before the fast because they anticipate restriction. Second, if the deficit is aggressive, metabolic adaptation shows up, energy expenditure drops, spontaneous movement drops, and the body becomes more efficient. People commonly describe this as my metabolism slowed. And while the exact amount varies, a noticeable reduction in daily energy expenditure can happen, especially with large deficits, prolonged dieting, low protein, and no resistance training. Third, leptin drops with fat loss and energy restriction, and reward sensitivity increases, so cravings get louder and weight regain becomes easier. Fourth, if protein is low and training is missing, the body burns lean mass. In real dieting, it is completely possible that 20 to 30% of weight lost comes from lean mass when protein is inadequate and resistance training is absent. That is where fasting becomes a muscle loss diet. Instead of stable appetite, you get chaotic hunger. Instead of long-term fat loss, you get rebound eating. And instead of a healthier body, you get a weaker one. So the first rule is muscle protection, because if you lose muscle, most of your long-term results collapse. You should aim for about 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. If you are 70 kilograms, that is roughly 110 to 150 grams daily. Then you need resistance training 3 to 4 times per week. Not random workouts, but progressive overload with multi-joint patterns like squats, deadlifts, rows, pull-ups, presses, lunges, and push-ups. And when you break your fast, your first meal should be protein forward, because that is how you stimulate muscle protein synthesis and reduce breakdown. A practical target is at least 30 to 40 grams of protein in the first meal. Protein quality matters mostly because it helps you hit that threshold easier. Lean animal proteins like chicken breast, turkey, lean beef, eggs, and Greek yogurt are efficient because they are complete and leucine dense. Plant proteins like lentils, beans, tofu, and pea protein can absolutely work, but you usually need larger portions or better combinations to reach the same muscle-building signal. In practice, many people succeed with either approach as long as total protein and training are correct, but per gram, animal proteins are often more efficient for triggering muscle protein synthesis. Training timing is optional. But the safest and most reliable option is training inside the eating window, typically 1 to 3 hours after a protein-rich meal. That gives you amino acids available, a lower stress response, and better performance. Training at the end of a fast can increase fat oxidation and growth hormone, but it also increases fatigue risk and is better suited to experienced trainees. If you do full-day fasting, avoid heavy resistance training on those days. Keep movement light like walking and mobility, because the cost-to-benefit ratio of heavy lifting while completely fasted is not great for most people. The second rule is a moderate deficit, not aggressive starvation. If you are doing a strict pattern like alternate day fasting, do not make fast days 0 calories. A small intake like around 500 calories is often more sustainable and reduces the rebound effect. In daily time-restricted eating like 14-10 or 16-8, the key is this: do not fast and then also crash diet inside the eating window. If your maintenance is around 2,400 calories, eating 2,000 to 2,100 is a reasonable deficit for many people. Your body gives you warning signs when the deficit is too harsh: constant coldness, extreme fatigue, disturbed sleep, obsessive thinking about food, and in women, menstrual irregularities. Those are not discipline. They are signals that the system is too aggressive. The second rule is a moderate deficit, not aggressive starvation. If you are doing a strict pattern like alternate day fasting, do not make fast days 0 calories. A small intake like around 500 calories is often more sustainable and reduces the rebound effect. In daily time-restricted eating like 14-10 or 16-8, the key is this: do not fast and then also crash diet inside the eating window. If your maintenance is around 2,400 calories, eating 2,000 to 2,100 is a reasonable deficit for many people. Your body gives you warning signs when the deficit is too harsh: constant coldness, extreme fatigue, disturbed sleep, obsessive thinking about food, and in women, menstrual irregularities. Those are not discipline. They are signals that the system is too aggressive. Inside the eating window, you want 2 to 3 real meals, not grazing. Each meal should hit both the muscle signal and the satiety signal, meaning it should be protein-loaded. And finishing the window with slower protein like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese can help overnight muscle protection and next morning appetite stability. Women should be more conservative with fasting duration when stress is high, body fat is low, sleep is already fragile, or cycles are irregular. Longer fasts, especially beyond 18 hours, can amplify stress physiology in some women and show up as sleep disturbance, higher cortisol symptoms, and menstrual irregularity. The safest approach is to start at 12 hours, then increase gradually, and ensure the eating window is not underfed. Avoid fasting during high-stress periods and avoid it entirely if you already have cycle issues that worsen with restriction. And the biggest red line is binge eating, or a binge restrict history. If a person tends to lose control after restriction, fasting can become gasoline on that fire. The pattern is predictable. Skipping meals increases evening hunger. Hunger increases loss of control. Loss of control increases guilt. Guilt triggers more restriction, and the cycle repeats. Supplements are optional, but a few have practical roles. Whey protein is one of the most evidence-backed tools for appetite control and muscle preservation. Taking around 30 grams when breaking the fast can help. Psyllium is a soluble fiber that slows gastric emptying. Around 5 grams with enough water before meals can reduce hunger for some people, but tolerance varies. Caffeine can suppress appetite, and green tea may slightly increase thermogenesis, but do not use stimulants to mask an overly aggressive deficit. Omega-3 fatty acids may modestly support metabolic health and inflammation balance. Common dosing is around 2 grams of icosapentaenoic acid plus docosahexaenoic acid per day. Magnesium can support sleep quality, and sleep loss increases ghrelin and appetite. People often use around 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at night if tolerated. Vitamin D is reasonable if deficient, commonly around 1,000 to 2,000 international units daily. But it is not a fat loss switch. If you follow mainstream guideline logic, no major guideline says intermittent fasting is superior to a balanced calorie-controlled diet. Most evidence suggests fasting and classic calorie restriction produce similar weight loss and similar improvements in insulin sensitivity and lipids when calories and protein are matched. The most sustainable and circadian-friendly approach is usually a milder time-restricted pattern like up to 14 hours, And for many people, up to 16 hours can also work if protein and training are correct and there is no binge risk profile. Any fat loss phase should be time-limited and followed by maintenance because chronic low energy availability drives leptin reduction, thyroid suppression, lower resting energy expenditure, and higher hunger. If you structure fasting this way, you get the reward without the punishment. You lose fat, not muscle. Your waist comes down. Your hunger becomes stable instead of chaotic. Your metabolism still adapts a little because any deficit causes some adaptation, but the decline is smaller when protein and resistance training are in place. Your triglycerides can improve, insulin sensitivity can improve, blood pressure may improve, liver fat can decrease, and the whole process feels like a system you can live with, not a cycle you survive.